Hey there. As you probably noticed from the title, this episode is going to be a little different than our usual episodes, but for a good reason. I just got back from NurseCon at sea, where I had the opportunity to record my very first podcast in front of a live audience while literally floating in the middle of the ocean on a giant cruise ship. Definitely a first for me. And honestly, a pretty fun upgrade from my usual recording setup in my podcast closet. If you're not familiar with NurseCon at sea, it's exactly what it sounds like, a nursing conference on a cruise ship, which means you get this wildly unique combination of earning your CEUs while soaking up sunshine, eating amazing food, relaxing poolside, and dancing the night away. And yes, it really is as fun as it sounds. My days look something like this. Waking up, working out while staring at the ocean, grabbing breakfast, heading to a CEU session, spending some time by the pool, going to another class, maybe sneaking a hammock nap, and then wrapping up the day with dinner, comedy shows, dancing, and whatever adventure was happening that night. Truly unlike any conference I've ever attended. But what stood out the most to me wasn't just the fun, it was the heart behind it. After talking with Nurse Blake and his team, it became really clear that NurseCon at Sea was intentionally created to help nurses fill their cup. And as nurses, we know how deeply needed that is. Nursing is meaningful work, but also demanding, exhausting, and emotionally expensive. We spend so much of ourselves caring for others that it can be easy to lose sight of our own well-being in the process. So while this podcast usually focuses on the science of nursing, the pathophysiology, the pharmacology, the clinical management we all love to nerd out over, this episode is about something equally important, and that is the heart of nursing. In this live recording, I had the privilege of interviewing nurses who have experienced burnout, reached their breaking point, and ultimately found their way back to nursing with healthier boundaries, deeper self-awareness, and more sustainable ways to keep showing up for both their patients and themselves. So, to set the scene, imagine you're on a cruise ship, surrounded by 3,000 nurses, tucked into a little comedy club at sea, listening to honest conversations about burnout, resilience, and what it really takes to stay healthy and whole in this profession. All right, now that you're there with us, let's dive into this special episode. Hey there. I'm your host, Sarah Lorenzini, a rapid response nurse and educator who loves telling stories to teach critical thinking. This podcast is for nurses who want the knowledge, skills, and confidence to respond to any emergency. With almost 20 years of experience in the ER and critical care nursing, and a master's degree in nursing education, I have a lot of stories to share, and I love to nerd out and break down the pathophysiology, pharmacology, and nurses' role in emergencies. Stories bring learning to life. It is way easier to learn from and remember the stories that my colleagues and mentors have told me than anything I've read in a textbook. And that is why I made this podcast. Every episode is packed full of exactly what you need to know to handle whatever crisis that could arise on your shift. It's one thing to get the right answer on the test, but knowing how to detect when your patient is declining and what to do when your patient is crashing is what will make or break your day and might just save your patient's life. I'm Sarah Lorenzini, your host, and I'm so glad that you are here tonight. So those in the audience for our live recording on the NurseCon at Sea, thanks for being here. Thank you for your presence. Thanks for being a part of this experience. So glad you're here. And thank you to Taryn and Joe for being our guests tonight. I'm looking forward to hearing your stories. Tonight's conversation is about real experiences that we have in this profession, the ones that push us towards burnout and the ones that help pull us back out. We're going to talk about resilience, not like in a surface level way, but really, what is the heart of nursing? Like what it cost us, what it gives us, and also how we keep showing up for our patients and for ourselves. I know you came to NurseCon at Sea to fill your cup. Awesome. There will definitely be lots of sunshine and laughter and connection. But I also hope to go a little bit deeper today, that our conversation grounds you something deeper as well. I hope that it reminds you of your why, like why you became a nurse in the first place, and that you walk away not just inspired, but with a real perspective and tools to continue caring for others from a place of wholeness. So let's do this. All right. I had never recorded a podcast on a cruise ship before, so it's the first time for me. So it may be a little clunky as we like invite people up to the stage, but let's go and do it. We're going to start with Joe. Come on down.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, welcome to the podcast. Let's just start by you telling me what you're up to these days in nursing.
So these days, I am actually working as a house supervisor. I decided to upgrade from ER after COVID to utilize my skills more in another setting with, educating people and making sure those people are getting the right care appropriately. And it's being a leader is something that I enjoy.
Okay. You've worked a lot of roles for fire, EMS, ER. You said psych nursing at one point as well. I guess all nursing is psych nursing technically. But what's something about this work that maybe is misunderstood, that people don't totally understand? What do you want us to know?
So,
any commonalities of us, all these roles?
I don't think it matters what aspect of nursing you're in, what your specialty is. In some way, shape, or form, it does take a part of you. What we in the industry understand, and what everyone outside doesn't, is that there is a tight-knit group. It's kind of like the fire department. We're all here at NurseCon. For one reason, it's the camaraderie, the fun. Yeah, there's a lot of fun and games. We come here to decompress. We come here to enjoy it. But as you said, this is an opportunity to really touch the side that we don't really acknowledge. The thing that people don't get is a part of you is always going to be taken, no matter where you are. We see the good, we see the bad, and more often we do see the good. It's that those times that we see the bad that we don't readily acknowledge. It's just, we all understand it's an unspoken thing.
Yeah, I could think back to the height of COVID, which was some of the harder times for me. And because I hadn't seen emergencies before, it was just the frequency at which we were seeing emergencies was a lot more than I was used to. And there was one point I was like, are we getting anyone better? Is anyone getting better from COVID? Because all I saw as a rapid response nurse was intubation, code, intubation. And so I had to be okay, we had to find some wins here. I had to find some good that's happening here and celebrate that win. And I remember going to the charge nurse on the message board and hey, y'all not usually call me for discharges, but next time someone's discharged, do you call me? I need to see someone that got better from COVID and walked out the door. I need to see that win because definitely it can take a toll on them and always see is the negative stuff. So you had said something in your application to be on this today. You said you talk about resilience as a discipline, not motivation. What does that look like in real life when you're exhausted and burnt out? So
to me, what it is taking the time to find something that is not nursing associated. It's, spending time with your family, or what I do, I volunteer at our local aquarium. I feed the animals, I clean the tanks, and the best part, fish don't talk back. So it's just something that I do to decompress. It's, I tell people that the diving aspect is a whole different world, and it really is my Zen moment. It's peaceful, it's quiet, but spend time with your family, spend time with your friends, do things that you want, get outdoors during the summer, kayak, do something that is what helps you become resilient in this industry, because it's that recharge that you need. We work 36 hours a week. No one else really understands that, but that's a lot. It's only 36 hours. No, it's a lot on you, especially when you're doing your 3 in a row. You need something to recharge and decompress.
And I like how you said it was a discipline, because it does take discipline to fit those things into your schedule. It's so easy just to work at 312s and then you just rot on the couch until your next 312s come up. I totally get that. There's a time and place for that. But it takes discipline to I know on Thursday we're going kayaking. And then Friday night I'm going to schedule in, going out with my wife. And then Saturday I'm going to take some time to clean the fish tank. If that's recharging for you, I love that for you.
Wrestle a turtle or two,
You mess with a turtle or two, whatever you need to fill your cup, so that when you come back to Street Trails, you come as a whole person and not someone who's just been beaten down and not fully recharged. So I had thought about it as a discipline before, but I agree. I think it is more than just be motivated. You can do it. Positivity. It takes some discipline to fill your cup.
And there is hope for night shifters, because I am a night shifter.
Okay.
So we deal with I don't mean to deal with our daughter, but she's going to be 8. So we're always trying to include her in doing stuff, because we can't sleep all day. It's not fair to her. It would be punishing her. So that's why it's become a discipline that is okay, we sleep for a few hours, we're going out and doing something. We're going to get wild and crazy. We're taking the kid, get her all sugared up. Let's go.
That sounds like quite an adventure. It's figured up, kid. and you're lacking sleep. What a combo. All right. You said that you've seen people either fracture or adapt under pressure. What do you think is the difference between those two paths?
Oh, so perfect example. Unfortunately, was COVID. I feel bad for any of the new grads that came out during COVID. And I know plenty of new grads that after COVID ended, they gave up. They got out of nursing. It was way too much. And that's where I said you either fracture or you adapt. And I had the fortunate background of having been fire and EMS for 15 years that it was adapt or die. And it sounds kind of, drastic, but it really was. You either learned and adapted or you got out. And I saw plenty of people in the fire service go out as well. It's not just related to nursing. How many people go through college, get degrees, and then they end up not even working in that field? It just is an individual to a specific industry.
Can you think of a time, maybe like at your lowest or hardest season of nursing, where you were faced with a decision of like, either I adapt and overcome, or I'm out of here? Can you think back to that time? Maybe share with us what that was like to you?
I can. And that was actually when I decided that it was time for me to get out of the bedside and go to a different role. And, not everyone can go to house supervisor. Not everyone can go to nurse manager. But there are other things out there too. They got legal nurse consultants. You have podcasting. You have so many different options. But you're going to know that moment when you wake up in the morning and you're like, I can't do it. That's when you need to have that serious conversation with yourself, saying, hey, what can I do? I still enjoy being a nurse. I still love taking care of people. It's something that that you enjoy doing. You're good at doing, but I didn't do it. I didn't do it. No.
For those of us who's recording afterwards, there's some beeping happening in the background, and someone just said, "Is somebody going to get that call?" Right? Okay, we're used to just continuing to work with the beeping in the background. Continue on, Joe. Nothing's happening. Everything's fine.
It's fine. Everything's fine. But you have to have that serious conversation with yourself when you realize it's time to, you can stay in the industry, but you got to. Again, it's all about taking care of yourself. You're either going to fracture or you're going to adapt. It goes back to that conversation.
So if you were to give maybe wisdom to someone who feel like they're in that moment of like, I can't do this anymore, what would you recommend to them?
I would recommend talking to, your partner, your spouse, your best friends, even your coworkers, as much as they might give you a lot of grief. Some of my best friends, either in the firehouse or when I was in the ER, I was like, I can't do this anymore. And they're like, suck it up, and all this. But in the end, they would always give you the same advice. So like, you have to do what's best for you. And it's not some like life-shattering revelation. It's, and I wish there was something more that I could say that, you do this. But no, it's like, you have to do what's best for you.
I think it's hard because we're often like nurturers, caregivers by nature. And so the idea of doing what's best for us seems foreign. I'll do what's best for my patient, best for my husband, best for my kids, but best for me, I'm not used to doing that. If you think about it, if I do what's best for me, what's going to care for me the most, that is how I can care the best for my patients. So roundabout way, choosing what's best for you is actually choosing what's best for your future patients as well. So you don't want to show up an empty shell to work every day and have nothing to give to these people that are suffering and going through the worst day of their life.
Right.
And so I think it is the most compassionate thing to do for your patients to take a step back or take a step to the side, something different, shift, pivot, something.
If you can't take care of yourself, how can you give the best care to your patient?
Sorry, I'm going to quote you again. You said you have to build a life that isn't fully defined by the institution. How do you actually do that in a profession that consumes so much of you? And what did you mean by that, not defined by the institution?
So I'll use myself as that example. A lot of my coworkers on my one psych unit, I have this amazing interaction with them. So there's mornings that we'll go out for, get an egg and cheese omelets and a beer after the shift and whatnot. And I have a lot of people that's like, your leadership, you shouldn't be doing that with your, your subordinates. And it's like, why not? Why shouldn't I be doing that? That's what I mean. Like the institution defines as oh, you're the house supervisor, you need to act a certain way. Absolutely not. I like to joke. I like to have a good time. But in that moment of crisis, they know they can rely on me. They'll turn to me. I have the knowledge. I have the experience. You build that relationship to where not only do they trust you based on your knowledge, but they learn who you are as an individual and know that, hey, if something goes really bad, doesn't matter if it's at work, outside of work, personal life, things like that, but they can come to you. And it's, again, failing to be defined by the institution. My job just isn't work. It's taking care of my people.
Yeah, I love that. I definitely I'm the leader of my team as well, the response supervisor. And I feel the push to be like, you got to be professional at all times, keep a distance for your team, you're the leader. I don't know that benefits anybody. I think that because I am who I am all the time, which is compassion and caring for others, I think that people trust me more and are more willing to share their heart, and I can really support them better. I feel like I'm getting the truth that I'm not the person they're trying to show to the leader, because I'm their friend and their colleague. I think it goes better. And also, as a leader, I feel like I would burn out more if I had no peers. If I had to stand up in this ivory tower and not connect with anyone, that sounds exhausting and sad, especially for an extrovert like myself. So yeah, I think there's something to finding a balance of connecting with the people you work with, even if you are in a leadership position. I agree with you on that. Okay. What is one truth about this profession that most people don't say out loud and they should be saying out loud?
We all joke about it, that it gives us great coping skills, but horrible coping mechanisms. But there is some truth to that we need to make everyone aware that this profession is something that, as I said earlier, it takes a party deal. People just need to be aware. We need to not use that to terrify our new nurses coming in, the new grads, people that are interested in nursing. But we need to use that as a way to warn them, prepare them, because I know there have been so many people that are just absolutely blindsided by something. I learned early on in my career that I never, ever say, oh, I've seen it all. Absolutely not. I'll see something that I've never seen before, and I will wish that I had never seen that as well. It's going to be my fault that I have eyes that day. But we have to just make people aware that this is the reality of our job. We're going to see things that are going to live with us forever.
I think what I hear you say is that in the past, we were told, this is how it is. It sucks. Deal with it. Suck it up. Get back at it, right? And I think the shift that we're seeing now, that I hope that we're seeing in our profession, is this is how it is. It's challenging. It's hard. It's heavy. It's difficult. But here's some strategies to help you get through it. You need to take time to care for yourself. You need to celebrate the wins. You need to get good rest. You need to have some puppies all to work. You have a personality and an identity outside of just I'm a nurse. It's going to be hard, but here's how you can manage it. I think that's what I'm hoping to come away with today. It's not just yeah, buddy, that COVID, remember that COVID? That was rough. How we ever survive it? That is the question. How do we survive it? And how do we move forward from here as a profession? How do we move forward whole, healthy? So last question for you. What has this career cost you and what has it given you?
On the serious note, it has given me the ability to function under pressure, lead with compassion. It gave me my wife. We met when we worked together 11 years ago. But, jokingly as well, it gave us, again, the coping mechanisms and PTSD, anxiety. It's just...
What a gift.
Right, exactly. But the walk away is the thing that it gives us the most, is the ability to be that rock in a time of crisis. It doesn't matter what area of nursing you're in. If something happens, people are going to look to you because you're a nurse. You've seen bad things go wrong, and I'm going to look at you for, what do you say? What should we do? This is you're going to be the person that people come to.
Agreed. Yeah, nursing gives us so much perspective for sure. My daughter's in nursing school right now, and just watching her experience it. And before nursing, she worked in a restaurant. And she's what I thought was stressful, I had no idea what true stress was until I worked in the hospital and saw people dying and suffering and grieving and anxious and people upset about their food didn't come out in time. I can handle that. But someone you falling apart because they got a new diagnosis, it's just so we see so much. But at the same time, she's like, I love going to work. I love that I get to be there with people on that really bad day. Like, what a great opportunity. Is it hard? Yes. Am I more exhausted than when I serve chicken? Yes. But I also love it so much more. So, yes. Joe, thank you so much, sir. I was going out for driving to your story. I love getting to hear it. And there's so much we can walk away with it from it. So, thank you so much. All right.
Thank
So my next guest is Taryn. Taryn is a hospice nurse who was also for a season a caregiver. So she would work all day caring for dying patients as a hospice nurse and then go home to care for her loved one as well. And she found herself at a really hard spot, not sleeping, and experienced such severe burnout. She ended up being hospitalized. But Taryn has found her way back to the bedside. So let's dive into her story and learn from her experiences.
All right. Welcome to the stage. This is Taryn. Taryn, thank you for joining me today on the Referee Sponsoring Podcast. Class, yeah. All right. Well, we're just going to dive right into your trauma.
We're going to trauma bond.
All right. You shared that you experienced burnout to the point of being hospitalized.
Yeah.
And so looking back now, what were some of the early signs that things were not okay, like before it got to that point? Like when you reflect back to it. I asked because I wanted people in the audience today if they can identify with what you were going through before that point.
Right. So my experience was not necessarily related to the job at the time. It was caregiver burnout. So we do see a lot of that in our, patients and families that we take care of. So my problem was I was not able to sleep. I tried to sleep. I couldn't sleep. Nothing was helping. The medications weren't helping. My family and friends could only do so much. I couldn't get in to see anybody in a timely manner. I didn't have, a psychiatrist on call at that point. So it was just really difficult. And I think just dying to sleep and not being able to was just horrible. They use that as a torture, for a reason. So
you're working as a nurse full time, and then you come home from that to be a caregiver to your loved one. That's a lot on the body. You have to get your rest from that. This work getting sleep. Ended up hospitalized. But then somehow you made it back to the bedside, and then you found yourself at some of the same patterns. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I was hospitalized at one point. Then for about a year, I was okay. I was back to working. And then I got to the point where we were really busy at work and sleep was elusive to me. And I panicked. And that time I was worried things were going to get bad like they did before. So at that point, I went into the hospital voluntarily.
Let's go back a little bit to that point. Like, were there any things leading up to the point where you just broke that you can reflect on, like, oh yeah, I had this going on and this going, I should just seen this coming?
I want to say that there's a perfect list of warning signs that I could give someone to say, this is what you need to look out for. Maybe increased anxiety, panic attacks. Again, the sleep being an issue, just not feeling like yourself and feeling like the work is just, like Joe said, taking a piece of you, but taking too much of you to where you can't function.
If you don't want to know personally is there something that someone else could have done in that season that would have been helpful? Something they could have said to you or where they could have supported you? Because I think we all work with people who are on the brink of burnout, on the brink of hospitalization. And I want to be that friend to them that's going to walk with them towards healing and recovery. Is there anyone who did that for you? Or is there that you wish someone could have said to you or done for you that would have helped you through that season?
Yeah, unfortunately, there were many opportunities for people to help more than they did and to step in, and that didn't always happen. I went to the ER at one point just because, again, just trying to find that elusive sleep. And it was the same ER I'd been to a couple months prior where I had broken my foot. And that ER visit was a totally different experience than going for a mental health reason. I didn't feel like they were equipped to handle what I was going through. And I don't feel like they gave me the right resources. And like I said, I couldn't find any outpatient health because, you call for an appointment. Some places they're like, okay, it's March. I'll see you in October, Like, I need to sleep before October, please. So unfortunately, There were some people that were great. Not everyone was, though, unfortunately.
So I know you're a hospice nurse, but let's say you were an ER nurse and someone came into your ER with the same symptoms that you experienced. What would you want to tell them? Like, how would you walk them through that season of their burnout?
I guess just having that empathy, like this could be me. When I was in the ER, the nurse, she wouldn't answer any of my questions, didn't know what was happening, and fear of the unknown is a big trigger for me. So I guess just having the empathy, like this could be you. This could be you having the worst day of your life. Try to see it from their perspective and just like, I remember there was a nursing student in there with me that day, and he was putting the blood pressure cuff on me, and it was going off every, 5 minutes or whatever it does. And I was like, listen, I don't need this. I'm not in here for anything physical. And I felt bad afterwards because I was like, I was not really showing him a good time. But I guess just trying to be empathetic as much as you can.
For sure. I mean, as an ER nurse myself, I care for lots of patients who are like at their breaking point. They come in, literally it's the worst day of their life. No nurse wants to walk into the ER. None of us want to be a patient. That's like the worst thing ever. But instead of just like going through the motions and being all tasky, like I gotta get your blood, I gotta get blood pressure, I gotta document this, gotta ask you this question, that question, just to see the human soul behind what's going on. And like to know that you really are showing up the worst version of yourself. Like there's another version of Taryn that is much more grounded and stable and put together, but this is like the bad day. This is the worst version. Let's just be understanding to that. And I think there's so much value in just validating what they're experiencing. Like, oh my gosh, you haven't slept in since when? I'd be a mess if I had something that long. No wonder you feel so bad. Oh my God, get you a blanket. Like, look, give me a snack. Like, well, just turn the lights off. Like, I can't even imagine. And even just seeing that, I think shows empathy and compassion. If you can't understand, and again, got a great night's sleep last night and do not experience what your patients experienced, but to say, just to validate what they're experiencing, I think is so empowering.
Absolutely. Like that would have made a world of difference.
Yeah. So I think that's a takeaway for us too, is to try to see the human behind the symptom and like the person behind the task in front of us. I know ER nursing, we're so busy and the task saturation is a real thing. But I think where nursing is rewarding is when we take the time to connect with the human in front of us and not just, like, I'll never go home and be like, you know what? I sent off 27 urinalysis today and all the blood tubes were sent within 27 minutes. And I charted on time. Like, what a great day I had. No, the great day is like, I have this one patient named Taryn who's a nurse like me, and she's going through a really hard season. She's a caregiver for her loved one, and she's working full time. And I got to just hear her out and connect with her on what she's experiencing. That, for me, that makes for a great, that sounds crazy. Like, what a great day. I get to be with somebody who's suffering. But for me, that's what brought me to nurse in the first place. Yes. And so that's the kind of nurse that I want to be, is someone that would be there for Taryn when she's having a bad day. Okay, on to the positive part of the story. What did healing actually look like for you? And what helped you find your way back, if you've been able to find your way back?
A lot of therapy, a lot of medication changes. And there's, such a negative stigma with both of those things. Therapy is important even if you're in a good headspace. I think everyone could benefit from therapy. There was a time when I didn't know if I'd be able to return to nursing. I took some time off work and cashed out my 401k and I went to bartending school. I considered a complete change in career. I considered many different avenues, but eventually I did return to nursing. I was just drawn back to it. I didn't want it to be the thing that had defeated me. And just that internal drive to help people. And now that I'm doing hospice again, just encouraging the caregivers to get rest and get help if you need help. Like, don't do it alone. That's been super rewarding for me.
I love that you turned a really hard season into an opportunity to like care for someone else from what you've heard from it.
Yeah.
I mean, like you hit the rock bottom because you were a caregiver and now you are caring for caregivers. Like, let's be honest, that's what hospice nurses do. Like, yes, you have a patient, but really you're also the nurse for their family who's validated and needs someone to walk them through that whole season. And so you're the perfect person who can really understand what they're going through and to care for them well. Karen, that's some heavy stuff, but I think your story really does remind us not only to care for ourselves and to get some sleep, but also to think about the human that we're caring for. It's not just like a machine we have to fix. It's a human soul that we're caring for that's having a really hard day. So you're still in nursing now. Is there anything that you do differently now to protect yourself that you weren't doing before?
Definitely prioritizing sleep. And Joe, listen up on that.
Night shifts, listen up.
Yeah, night shift in general. Self-care is super important. I make time for anything that I think might fill my cup, as you were saying, because you can't pour into others with an empty cup. You just can't. And self-care is so important. Going to therapy, taking my meds, just all of that is very important.
So for the nurses listening who feels like they're getting close to that edge, who can see themselves, feel like, I need to just go to the ER right now. I can't keep going. Where do you want them to hear from you?
Use your PTO. Please call into work. Go to NurseCon,
Agree. We're preaching to the choir, right? Like all these people that are listening right now are here at NurseCon because they know it's important to fill your cup. I think the reminder is like there's other ways to fill your cup besides just like fun things. You can also fill your cup by like connecting with the people that you love and by going to therapy and taking your medication. Like there's so many things that we need to do to like make sure that we show whole. I forgot who told me this. I wish I could give them credit, but someone talked about, so you have to fill your cups. You're not pouring from an empty cup. So I actually made a list of like all the things that fill my cup. And I made a very long list of all the things that drain my cup. And when you look at it, you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many things that fill my cup that are not even on my calendar right now.
Right.
And how can I make space for those things? Like little things. Like for example, I love being in a hammock. Like something about being in a hammock just is like so relaxing. But like, how can I put hammocks more to my life? Or like snuggling babies. I love babies. My youngest is 7. And so like, okay, who's got babies that I can snuggle? Because that is so life-giving to me. Like, I'm trying to put that on my calendar. That sounds so bad. I promise I'm a nice person. I'm not a Greek. But I do love babies. I'm trying to think what else. I love board games with my husband. But like sometimes like, it's so much work to like pull it out and get us set up. But once I'm actually doing it, it's so life-giving. And so like, what are those things that we can schedule in and put on our calendar so we can keep caring for ourselves, be able for our patients? So yeah. Taryn, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. Absolutely. Okay, we have a little bit more time. And since we do, I would love to hear from the audience. So Joe, I'm asking you to come on back up. I'm going to give you my little mic here. And then I have a mic on a stick. I'm going to walk around the audience and talk with you guys. Yes. First off, what's your name? My name's Katie. Thank you, Katie. And what is a practice that you have done that's helped you stay healthy at home?
Well, I relate to both of your stories. One day I went to work and got report and I couldn't. And I left for 3 months. And I worked very hard during that time with my therapy and the meds and doing all the things. And then when COVID hit, I was back at work and there was so much trauma that I think we've all experienced during COVID. And I wasn't sure that I would get through it. And I could feel not quite unsafe, but I didn't know who I would be on the other side of COVID and if I would even come through COVID. And so I went back into therapy, took another leave of absence and continued my therapy. And I thought, okay, what am I going to say when I go back to work? I just disappeared. I was gone for months. What am I going to tell people? And I decided I was going to tell them the truth because there is no shame. And I asked for and received help and support. And if I can help another nurse by being transparent about that, then I want to do that.
Thank you so much for sharing. I just wanted to say, as nurses, we had this idea like we're supposed to show up with it all together. But then for our patients, like, oh no, you really should go to physical therapy. You really should take this medication. It's going to make you feel better because I care so much about you. Let's make sure we schedule it in. Like, we don't act like it's a weird thing to go to physical therapy. You have a broken bone, you had a surgery, and you got physical therapy to get better. Why is it not the same for like mental health stuff? Something in COVID broke a lot of us. And so we definitely need to take some time in therapy. And it's the reason we should keep a secret. We're not like, don't tell anyone I'm in physical therapy, but we should also be open to share about the therapy we're in for our mental health.
Just real quick, one more interjection here. As I'm sitting here editing this episode, I keep coming back to something that Tracy Powell shared during one of the CEU sessions at NurseCon at Sea. She said, "One nurse's spoken story is another nurse's permission to speak." And that line really stuck with me. Tracy shared it in the context of her own mental health journey and a season where she nearly took her life. But she lived, and later chose to be open about her story with a fellow nurse. And because she was willing to speak honestly, another nurse eventually came to her and shared that they too were planning to take their own life. And because Tracy had gone first, because she made it safe to speak, she was able to intervene, remind that nurse that they are deeply loved, that their life matters, and help connect them with the support and resources that they needed. And that nurse is still here. And I think this is such a powerful reminder of why these conversations matter. Like when I listen back to Joe's story, to Taryn's story, to Katie's story, I feel so grateful that we're all starting to shift the conversation around mental health and nursing. And my hope is that we continue dismantling some of this old culture of healthcare that tells us to just suck it up, push through, and accept that this is simply what nursing is. I don't think that that mindset is sustainable. Like if our profession is going to survive, if we are going to survive within it, we have to talk about the hard things. We have to create space for healthier habits and better boundaries and more honest conversations and enough self-compassion to remember that we're human too. We're allowed to process the hard things. We're allowed to feel all the feels. We don't have to keep stuffing it down and just keep moving. So honestly, I'm really grateful for the space that existed on a floating ship in the middle of the ocean for nurses to come together and share stories and remind each other that none of us are alone in this. Okay, back to the episode.
My name's Frida. Okay, Frida, and tell me about what you've done. So I have two things. One of them that people should consider if they're on the brink is going part-time. I got tips to that too. Honestly, I was thinking, what has made my work joyful again? Because it bottomed out and it's come back. A lot of it has been about laughter, but it was not a small thing. That going part-time helped me focus on my own life. Mm-hmm. So that is something that if you're starting to feel the kink, that having a couple more days at home and with your family and with your dog and on a walk helps. But the other thing that really helps with me is laughing about it. When those times were bad, I remember we made this work annoyance bingo because it was like everything that could go wrong. Oh my God, again, now we can't use the water. Now we don't have these supplies. So we made a bingo and we would just laugh about it because it is comics sometimes. And what else can you do? I love it.
My name is Kinam. I had two things too. I recently changed units because I had a really toxic unit. So the first thing is I actually got an outside perspective. So it was my first year in NurseCon last year. And I met an educator here and I actually connected with her multiple times over the years since then. And I asked her, is this normal? Are these interactions I'm having okay? And she was like, absolutely not. That's super toxic. Get out there. And I was like, that was really validating because my coworkers are in it too. And it was my first nursing job. So I had no perspective. And so it was really nice to get an outside perspective from somebody who didn't really already skin in the game, but was really empathetic. Yeah. And then on my new unit, I have this great preceptor. And what we started doing when I was orienting was we would eat for lunch while we charted. And then our lunch, we go outside and we do yoga on the grass and in the sun. And so we leave the physical floor and instead of using the time to eat, do something physical that makes us feel better.
That's a great idea, actually. Multitask while you're eating, get some lunch in you and document and use that time just to do whatever instead of scarf it in the back at work. I love that. I haven't ever thought of that in 22 years. That's a yeah. Take notes, people. Take notes. Thank you for sharing. She's so right. There are things that maybe we don't realize are toxic because that's just all we know. We're like, I guess this is just nursing. And when you meet people at something like NurseCon or other conferences who work in different environments, you can get some different insight besides just what you're a part of. Okay, I think we have time for one more. Anyone else maybe want to share about their nursing journey, things that have helped them stay in the game, help them with resilience, or if you have any questions for me or for my guests, we're happy to answer those as well about our stories and our journeys. Yeah, I have a question. First, your name.
My name is Kara, and my question is, you guys mentioned that you guys are leaders and you guys have like that bond in them that they can share like their personal life or struggles. So as a leader and you have like a new grad come to you with concerns of like burnout, like how would you guys feel about that, or how would you approach it for the new grads? Like, is it something that we should be able to share with our leaders, or is the burnout something we should just like kind of keep more for our coworkers or just finding a new job?
I have opinions, but Joe, what do you think?
So I actually love it when I have my people come to me. I pull them in the office and I sit them down and we talk. It's like, hey, what do you got going on? Tell me what's going on. Tell me, what you're feeling, things of that nature. I try and validate their feelings. As hokey as people are going to say, well, that's a canned response. No, there is a therapeutic value to validating someone's feeling about feeling the burnout. You might see yourself as an individual, but you are just one piece of the entire machine. And when one part breaks, the entire thing goes out the window. So validating your feelings and giving you that perspective of, I get it, I understand. We've been there. It may have been 20 years ago, but I get what you're feeling. I've been there. And giving them advice on how to move forward with options on taking care of yourself. That's when I have someone come to me, I love that aspect because that is the part of nursing that no one talks about as a leader.
For sure. Yeah, and to echo what Joe's saying, I think when you take the time to talk to your boss about it or your supervisor, that keeps you from suffering in silence. Because really, suffering in silence doesn't do anybody good, not you or your boss. And I think a good boss would hear what you're saying, like, okay, whoa, all right, how can we help here? Do we need to swap your schedule around? Are you working too many days in a row? Do we need to give you off more weekends? Or do you need to go part-time for a season? Do we need to put you on a ship with someone who's a little bit more supportive? Like, they can find ways to help you in your burnout versus if you just suffer in silence and then you end up burning out and leaving. Like you said, that doesn't do any good. And so I think talking to your bosses, I think it's okay to do that. That being said, not every boss is a safe space. And so I can't tell you who that is in your work world. But if you feel like you don't have a boss that's a safe space, maybe you should consider getting a different one. To be very honest with you. Because you're right. Some bosses, you go tell them that, and then, I don't know, it could backfire on you, and then they talk about you behind your back, and that is not helpful at all. So I would say, yeah, I think it's okay to talk to your boss about the challenges you're facing, the burnout you're experiencing. Maybe they have some insight for you. Maybe they have some solutions for you. And if it's someone who's going to flip it on you and make it worse, then that's not something you want to work for anyways. So I say yes. I say yes to our two boss. Thank you so much. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate this. Whenever Blake, after the podcast, his heart was yes, NurseCon at Sea is fun and exciting and laughter and games, but also he wants it to be life-giving for nurses. So they do go home feeling okay, I can do this thing. I can keep showing up for my patients. I can keep showing up for myself. And so this is not my usual podcast. Most of my podcasts are about emergencies and how to handle them in the hospital setting. But I feel like this is important too, because we can't show up for those emergencies if we are falling apart, if we haven't had lunch, if we haven't had sleep, if we haven't peed, if we're having a really hard time facing the challenges of nursing, we can't do the emergency. So this is important stuff. So thank you guys for listening. I will hang out for the next 30 minutes or so if you have any questions. And welcome to NurseCon. See you. It's been a great week. Woo! Before you go, I have an exciting announcement. You can now earn CEs for listening to this podcast. That's right. Our Renegade has teamed up with podcast hosts like me who are delivering amazing content that not only educates, but inspires you to be the best for your patients. You get to learn and earn continuing education credits while absorbing knowledge from thought leaders and innovators in the field of health and medicine. You're already listening to podcasts during your commute, at the gym, or while unwinding after a long day. So why not earn your CEs at the same time? And that's where pod classes come in. Yep, it's just what it sounds like. It's CE learning through podcast. To learn more, I put a link in the show notes for you. Well, thanks for listening. I hope you learned something that will save a life. Remember,
Nursing is a team sport, so trust your intuition and don't give up advocating until you are confident you've done what's right by your patient. The views and opinions expressed on this show are that of Sarah Lorenzini's. That's me, and mine alone. They are not intended as medical advice and should not take the place of your institution's policies or procedures. Evidence-based practice is ever-changing, and your patient care should reflect the current best practice. So if you want to get in contact with me, you can shoot me an email at sarah@rapidresponsern.com or on all social media platforms as the Rapid Response RN.